About 2 days ago, I saw. Fuck, I can't. Holy fuck. Oh my God, I can't believe I just blanked out on the fucking line. Quote this like fucking Bible, and I just botched that at the beginning of the fuck. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Sorry. That was really stupid. About 2 days ago, I saw a rig that could hold that tanker. You want to get out? Fuck, I am so. I seriously revoke my Mad Max card. Revoke it. I truly do not deserve it. We're back. Okay? We're back. We're here. It's time to read chapter 4 of Mad Max, The Road Warrior. Here we go. I am so sorry. I just feel like a giant goofball right now. Chapter 4. Max was coming out of the trees again, running, panicking in a cold sweat. He had run all the way up the hill, through the trees, and his heart was pounding wildly. He could hear it now. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, just like the oil pump. How about that? Nice little layering of metaphor. Thudding in his ears, racking his entire body. His nerve endings were strained, screaming, and then he saw them, the bikers, roaring down the road. He saw the bikers first, and then further down the road, no more than about a mile across, the fields, a cloud of dust, and then a van. And that was when everything inside him seemed to seize up. His breathing was quick and shallow. There just wasn't enough air for his burning lungs. The panic was in its purest form. It was exquisite. And then, just as quickly as everything had seized up, inside of him, it was falling loose again. His bowels felt as if they were turning to liquid, and then he was yelling desperately, "The fuel line, Jesse! The fuel line's not connected!" He had been working on the fuel line when he had heard the scream, and grabbing the short-barreled shotgun and cartridge belt from the front of the van, had charged down through the trees towards the source of the sound he knew had come from Jesse. They had trapped her down there, and somehow she had managed to get away from them and doubled back up the hill to the van. She had Sprague with her, and now they were in the van, speeding down the road, and the bikers were gaining on them. "Jesse!" His hands were cupped around his mouth. His chest was heaving. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. "Jesse!" But it was no use. She couldn't hear him. She was too far away, and the bikes were between them. There was no way she could hear him. He began to run. At any moment now, starved of fuel, the van would stop. And with that gang of bikers hard on its tail, he began to run. It was probably already too late. He prayed it wasn't. He prayed for a miracle. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. 6 bikers. Jesse, the kid, wouldn't have a chance. Jesse and the kid wouldn't have a chance. He ran like a man, no longer in control of himself, but possessed of a demon force. Then there was a new sound, coming, it seemed, from very far away at first, and then much louder against his ears. There is something hard against his back, and his muscles are aching. He hears the sound again. It is some sort of bugle. He opens his eyes. In the moonlight, he can make out the gyro captain beside the tree with the empty dog food can in one hand and the finger of his other hand in his mouth, sitting still, his head a little to one side, listening. Max turns to the edge of the ridge. Ka-chunk. From the camp below, the sound of the oil cracker throbs through the warm night air. Right on the nose there, pal. Right on the nose. Then it is swamped by the sound of the gunning of bike engines. So there's a little sort of flashback, which actually is so missing. If I could say there's one thing that's missing from The Road Warrior, the movie, it's like a flashback like this that really further connects Mad Max to The Road Warrior, I think. But I mean, either which way, from his vantage point, Max watches the bikes move up the hill ground above the camp, where in the pale moonlight, he can see a hut with some hay bales nearby and silhouettes of either sleeping or dead cattle. The bikes swoop up the slope and pull up in a circle in front of the hut. Behind them lumbers a tow truck. They mill around for some moments. Then there is a faint crackling sound. A flicker of orange appears behind the cracks of the hut's rough timber walls, flames darting out from between the walls and fueled by dried wood, leaping higher towards the roof. The bikers gleam redly in the reflection of the flames. The dark shadows of the bikers move in front of it as they set fire to the hay bales. Then the inert bodies of the cattle, which Max can see now as the red and orange flames lick against the roof of the hut and consume the bales of hay, are studded with the arrows that have been fired into them. So lots of great little detail there. The stench of burning flesh drifts across the valley to where Max is sitting, very faint, but enough to create a pang in his stomach. So is that the flesh of man or the flesh of beast? There should be a little cannibalism in the Mad Max movies. There's not, but there should be, I think. But enough to create a pang in his stomach and to set the gastric juices flowing. One of the animals had not been set alight. Okay, so it was animals. Max watches as some of the gang drag it by its hind legs across the tow truck and secure it to the back. Then the trucks drive away with the animal bouncing and sliding across the ground behind it. The flames leap higher, throwing eerie shadows over the landscape. The sweat that had drenched Max's body when the bugle had broken into the dream that wasn't a dream, a reoccurring horror from which he cannot escape, even in sleep, which is never more than scratchy, one part of him straining, aware all the time of what's happening around him, sensitive to even the most minuscule restructuring of the elements around him. The sweat is drying on his body. There's a gritty sensation behind his eyelids. He can hardly keep his eyes open, running down the road and across the fields in a hopeless attempt to reach the van before the fuel stopped feeding the engine and it sputtered to a standstill. Jesse in the van and Sprague, the kid, and probably the engine already sputtering as it sucked in the last of the fuel from the broken fuel line. And the bikes were getting closer all the time, gaining on the van, which was now out of sight behind a clump of trees, running, his heart pounding, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, his arms and legs pounding up and down like pistons, and the noise of the bikes drumming inside his head. Then he reached the trees and there was the road again, and the bikes now no more than a cluster of specks in the distance. So he's having like a post-traumatic stress flashback, but it's not, it's interesting to cut between these two things, but it's not very, it's kind of incoherent. It's a little incoherent. And the bikes now no more than a cluster of specks in the distance, disappearing down the long straight stretch of road. His first thought was that the van was still going, that it was somewhere ahead of the bikes, and now he would never have a hope of catching it. Then he looked back and he saw it, the van standing in the middle of the road, its doors open, and in the front of the van, if she had cut back across the fields, Jesse and the kid might have had a chance. But she must have panicked and, carrying the child, had run along the road away from the van and with the bikes, the tow cutter and his gang bearing down on them. They hadn't had a chance. Max had almost been able to see what happened, the impact of the bike as it struck her, wrenching Sprague out of Jesse's arms and throwing him beneath the wheels of one of the bikes. So fucking sad. And then Jessie herself tossed in the air like a rag doll, spinning back to earth to have her legs and abdomen crushed by another set of screaming tires. What might have been if she had run across the field instead of straight along the road where they couldn't miss her. I mean, it's crazy that they ran straight down the road. If they had just run onto the dirt, they might have had a fighting chance at least. The sound of the engines, the dogs growling, and Max's eyes jerking open, instantly awake. The sky is lightening. It's almost dawn. Scrambling around from his position against the rock, Max peers down at the plane just in time to see the old bus with steel reinforced sides swing back to close off the entrance to the camp. 3 vehicles fan out from the camp in 3 directions, and there's a flurry of movement. So the Seven Sisters tribe, whatever you want to call them, the refinement tribe, they're branching out. They're trying to break out that first time. 3 vehicles fan out from the camp in 3 directions, and there's a flurry of movement from the rise when the marauders are camped. Their chain rattles. The chain rattles as the gyro captain struggles forward in a fruitless effort to see what is happening. What's up? Don't know. Something must be happening. From the rise, the marauders, you really need those 3 fucking lines. Really couldn't have just you could literally cut out those 3 fucking lines. It was so unnecessary, or at least make it more interesting than whatever that was. From the rise, the marauders have broken up into 3 groups, and with the giant humongous himself leading one of these groups, are setting off in hot pursuit of the 3 camp vehicles as they speed off into the wasteland. 4 of the marauders remain on a pinnacle overlooking the camp. Suddenly, as the 3 vehicles and their pursuers draw farther away from the camp, the steel-sided bus slides back again, and a dune buggy bursts out. So this, the bus that guards the entrance to the refinery. The steel-sided. See, he does know. He should have a whole paragraph talking about this. I would talk about the bus, right? I would talk about how the bus is the entrance in and out. You could do so much with that. It would be such an interesting detail to extrapolate on. Instead, knowing that it comes from the script, it just puts the steel-sided bus. I mean, that's such backwards thinking to me. The steel-sided bus slides back again, and a dune buggy bursts out through the opening and heads towards the hill from the top from which Max keeps watch. Reaching the hill, the buggy swerves and then disappears around the side, lurching to his feet. Max hurries across to the other side of the hilltop. Beyond the black-on-black pursuit car, which Max has left at the foot of the hill, beside a dead tree, the buggy has just reached the road when suddenly, never use the word suddenly, folks, when out of nowhere, also bad, when out of nowhere from behind an outcrop of rock on the other side of the road, 3 bikes with Mohawk riders, followed by a tow truck with a skinhead driver. Come on, where's our smegma crazies? I want some smegma. Swoop out onto the road to cut off the buggy. Max recognizes the first of the Mohawk riders by his crimson top notch. That's Wes right there. And by the almost naked golden youth, the naked golden. Sorry, that was terrible. It's just the way they describe the almost naked golden youth. It just sounds so. Ugh. But the almost naked golden youth riding pylon behind him. Pillion behind him. I've never heard that word pillion. Can we take a quick moment to look that up? I'm kind of curious to know. Let's see. Pillion, slang, meaning. No, stupid. Man, Google is just shitting the bed. No, it's pillion. Sorry. Don't mean to interrupt. I have to know. I really have to know. Pillion is not a slang term, but a standard. It's not a slang term, but a standard English word that has become synonymous with a motorcycle passenger. It refers to the person riding on the back of a motorcycle, a pillion. The term originally referred to a pad or a cushion used for a second ride on horseback and can be described as the passenger seat itself. So there you go. That's what the golden youth riding pillion behind him. The dune buggy doesn't have a chance. They're watching this from the distance. The bikes are riding onto it. The riders firing arrows into its tires and swinging in to lash out at the helmeted driver and his passenger with lengths of pipes and axes. The buggy swerves, trying to escape its attackers, but they are closing in on it, their arms flailing, and the dull of metal striking metal drifts up to Max at the top of the hill. The buggy skids and attempts to swing back onto its track, but the bikes are darting in again, closing off every path of escape. The buggy's tires have been torn to shreds by the arrows. The axes and piping clank heavily down on the dented, fractured metal. Then the buggy is rocking and lurching to the end of the road, where it teeters for a moment and then, enveloped in a sheet of dust, slides down the bank, hits a rock, tilts, rolls, and comes to a halt upside down at the foot of the embankment. Now, that's a lot of filler for literally saying the buggy crashed. How about saying the buggy crashed and then describing the terror of the passengers on the inside? You know what I mean? This is just fucking filler, man. It just pisses me off. The dust settles slowly down over it. The riders bring their bikes to the top of the bank. And it's just describing action, like adapting a script. The riders bring their bikes to the top of the bank and straddling their machines, looking down at the crumbled wreckage of the buggy. Then, with triumphant whoops, scramble down on it. They slide and stumble in their eagerness to get to it. to take it apart and get what they need from it to drain the tank of its precious fuel. They're like fuel vampires. They should call them vampires, the biker gang. But smegma vampires. From their lookout above, Max and the gyro captain look dispassionately down at the scene as the two Mohawkers drag the blood-soaked driver from beneath the wreckage. Max has seen it all before. This is nothing new, nothing to startle him or to drive him into a raging fury. The wreckage is beyond torn apart. Petrol tricks thickly into a canister. There is someone else down there, crawling out from beneath the wreckage, trying to get away without being seen. A bare leg beneath a ragged tunic. A woman, shapely, long blonde hair, and she has no chance to get away. Not from the Mohawkers, who sense things before they catch sight of them. And now two of them are leaping out at the woman, catching her and dragging her to the roadside. Beside him, Max hears a long, slow intake of breath from the captain. Glancing at him, he sees the man rummage deeply into one of the bulging pockets of his overcoat and then bring out a telescope, which Max can now see is attached to his waist by a leather cord. The telescope is more powerful than Max's binoculars, and the captain is just raising it to his eye. Or maybe Terry Kay, the fucking author, is literally watching the movie and just writing down everything he sees. The fucker. The captain mutters out of, is more powerful than Max's binoculars, and the captain is just raising it to his eye when Max reaches out and grasps it from him. The captain mutters a protest, and then as Max focuses the telescope, realizes that there is no point in arguing with him. He wouldn't take any notice of him. With the hopeless shake of his head, he picks up the binoculars that Max has left on the ground beside him. There's a crack in the telescope lens. The telescope swings in a long curve, and the scene below leaps into sharp focus. This tells me right here that as much as he might have been writing from one of the shooting scripts, he's absolutely seen the movie and is writing from the movie itself, which is just such a bummer to me, man. Kind of sucks. The telescope swings in a long curve, and the scene below leaps into sharp focus, which makes it look as if it's happening no more than a few feet away. It pauses fractionally on the golden youth who is sitting on one of the bikes, looking impassively at what is happening around the wreckage. His skin is fair and his features chiseled. And there's a sort of, I don't know this word, coquetry? Fuck, I don't know how to say that. Coquetry. See if I can look that up. Whoa, that's amazing. Flirtatious behavior. Oh, man, I love that you can highlight words and pictures now. There's a sort of coquetry about the way he is perched on the motorbike, one leg drawn up, hugged against his smooth chest. The telescope moves away from him and then stops again. Now, there, in the center of the lens, sharp as anything is the wreckage. And the injured driver, blood streaming down his face from a gash in his forehead, has been propped up against the side of one of the panels. With an evil smile, the Mohawk with the crimson swatch raises his crossbow and takes aim. There's a deep twang as the arrow is loosened from the bow. Then a rising scream of agony as it slices through the man's shoulder, pinning it to the panel. I wouldn't want to have to pin a man's head to the panel. A crafty fellow might have a weapon under there. I wouldn't want to have to pin his head to the panel. Did I redeem myself a little bit from earlier? The Mohawker carefully reloads and then, raising the bow again, shoots the second arrow into the driver's other shoulder. The driver's body convalesces. His screams are hideous. By the way, calling these guys Mohawkers is kind of fucked up because the Mohawk, like, I believe, maybe I'm wrong. The Mohawk are an indigenous tribe. Is the Mohawk an indigenous tribe, or is it just the name of a haircut?
The Mohawk is both an indigenous tribe and the name of a haircut.
Yeah.
The Mohawk people, from what is now upstate New York and southern Canada, originally wore the style as a symbol of bravery. The hairstyle with shaved sides and a central strip of hair was adopted by various groups.
I kind of regret never shaving. My can't now with the way my hair currently is. It's very thin and I'm in trouble. And I can't do a mohawk, but I regret that I never did a proper mohawk, punk rock mohawk haircut. So the mohawk were a people, but to call these bikers mohawkers because of their haircut, it just that's kind of rude, kind of terrible, actually. So when we say that, we're acknowledging that it's just part of the story, but I'm not a big fan of that personally. The cracked telescope moves onto the side of the road where three of the mohawkers are holding the struggling girl down on the ground, tearing away at her clothes and armor. Their movements quick and urgent. Trigger warning just coming up. We got some SA for everybody. Their movements quick and urgent, driven by the demands of their awakened lust. The girl, naked now, her clothes lying in shreds on the ground around her, screams. Her body writhes and twists as she tries to arch herself up from the ground, but they are too strong for her. One of the mohawkers kneeling beside her brings his fist back from his shoulders and then drives it forward with all of his strength, slams it full on her mouth. Her head jerks back. A line of blood seeps out from the corner of her mouth. Then they are onto her, rampant, straining, slacking, themselves in her, earnest, pumping, releasing, then raising to their feet to adjust their clothes and make room for the next. There is no style, no art. The girl is hardly moving except to roll her head slowly from side to side, and strands of yellow hair are stuck to her gleaming face. Once or twice, beside Max, the gyro captain is breathing heavily. Once or twice, he swears under his breath. And it's kind of interesting because in the movie, and Max witnesses this happen, and he basically doesn't do anything about it. And it kind of is really evocative of like who Max is as a character. I suppose it's a real save the cat kind of moment for Max, in a way, to an extent, I would imagine. I don't know. It takes them only a matter of minutes before they have done. It takes them only a matter of minutes before they have done with her, and then the last one has pulled himself away from her, is standing over her as she lies spent on the ground. He picks up his crossbow from the ground where he has placed it. There's a roar as the bikes are gunned to life, and then they are heading back towards the camp, leaving only the one man standing over the girl, loading his crossbow, aiming at it. Jesus, the gyro captain mutters. Only now you say Jesus, not before when the assault is happening? The gyro captain mutters, and Max is already on his feet, dropping the telescope and running hell for leather down the side of the slope, and the dog at his heels to where he has left his black on black, the car, of course. Hey, where are you going? The gyro captain yells behind him. What about me? The rocks slip from underfoot as he nearly slips. Too late, he knows he's going to be too late. It wouldn't take any more than a second before that crossbow bolt tore out the woman's throat. So why bother? Scrambling down the side of the hill, his arms out from his sides to keep balance, stones dislodging and rolling away ahead of him, the guy who had been with her still alive, pinned to the panel of his wrecked buggy by a crossbow shaft through each shoulder, maybe only just alive. Maybe in the next few seconds. Between now and the time Max got there, he wouldn't be alive. There was only one of the Mohawkers now there with him, with the driver of the buggy and the girl. It's kind of crazy. He doesn't come in there to take out the Mohawker until she is dead. That's so insane to me. Reaching the car, flinging himself into it, the engine roars, screams, the wheels lock in a tight circle as he brings it around onto the road, dust flying, billowing, the girl looking up at the crossbow that is aimed at her throat, knowing that she is going to die. With a screech of the brakes, Max pulls up at the point where the dune buggy went off the road, tracks scoring deep in the embankment, the earth all churned up by the tires of the motorbikes that had pulled up top of the embankment. Max stops the car and, picking up a huge pair of bolt cutters from beneath the dash, climbs out onto the bank. The girl is dead, and the bolt from the crossbow, rising obscenely from her throat, fired with such force that it has pinned her to the ground. There is blood. The girl's eyes are staring, and her head is twisted at a grotesque angle. Against the panel, the buggy's driver's head is lolling. He is still alive, but only just by the look of him. His torn clothes are saturated with blood. It has seeped into the ground around his feet. And there is only one. And there is one other. And there is one other, the last Mohawker, sitting on one of the buggy's upturned wheels beyond the naked, spread-eagled body of the girl. That's weird how it looks like spriegled. Sitting on one of the buggy's upturned wheels beyond naked, spread-eagled body of the girl, his back to Max, pulling on his trousers. The crossbow is lying on the ground next to him. Hearing Max come up behind him, he turns his head, and the sort of lopsided smile on his face, as if he is expecting it to be one of his cronies returning, quickly gives way to an expression of alarm when he sees Max's face, and then, his eyes dropping the pair of bolt cutters he is carrying, he is quick to react. Throwing himself to one side, he dives for the crossbow, but Max has been anticipating this, expecting him to do just this, and as the Mohawker's fists close around the weapon, Max springs forward, his foot coming up heavily down on the guy's wrists, all his weight pressing on it so that the Mohawker is unable to move it. The guy grins in sort of a hopeless way, hopeless and apologetic, and there's fear as well. Firmly gripping the bolt cutters, Max rises them high just as the Mohawker opens his mouth to scream, but nothing comes out, just a faint croak and some spittle. You know, it's kind of interesting to me. It's kind of like interesting. There is a market. There's a time and a place, especially when this novelization probably came out. It's at a time and a place where, you know, it's not always easy for people to have access to movies on home video and to even necessarily have Mad Max on home video or to make a trip to the video store to watch Mad Max if you're not seeing it in theater. Sorry, The Road Warrior. It's like the novelization is a book describing the movie. That's why it's called a novelization. So maybe some of my harshness for the novelization is not really, it's not accurate. It's not, I don't know that it's maybe it's not well justified is what I'm trying to say. In any case, Max raises them high above just the Mohawker, opens his mouth to scream, but nothing comes out, just a faint croak and some spittle before the cutters come down and smash his skull as easily as if it were an eggshell, crushing it onto bits of bone and gristle. Blood spurts, the Mohawker slumps, quite dead, and Max lifts his boot from his wrist. The buggy driver, the man from the compound, has seen all this, and his eyes are brimming with tears. He is still bleeding badly, and Max can see now that most of the blood is oozing out from his leg, which has been severely crushed. Taking out his well, that's crazy. The buggy driver, the man from the compound, has seen all this, and his eyes are brimming with tears. He's still bleeding badly, and Max can now see that most of the blood is oozing out from his leg, which has been severely crushed. Taking out his handkerchief, Max kneels down in front of him and ties a tourniquet above the wound to staunch the flow of blood. It's a start. There's not much else he can do except maybe get him out of here and back to the compound where they might have proper medical equipment that would ease the pain. Max straightens. Thank you. The man's face and body are pale, as if most of the blood has already been drained out of them. Let's get it straight, Max gruffly tells him. I'm looking for gasoline. That's all I want, just the gasoline. The injured man's voice is very faint, hardly more than a whisper, yet each word seems to cost him. Oh, this is a well-written sentence. The injured man's voice is very faint, hardly more than a whisper, yet each word seems to cost him a massive effort. That's a great sort of thing. That's great. His chest heaves. The tourniquet is already blood-soaked. As much as you want. Just take me back. I don't want to die. ... Here. Picking up the bolt cutters, Max squeezes them between the man's body and the panel to which he has been pinned. It is simply a matter to cut through the bolt and release the man. Now all he has to do is get him to the compound. So there we are. Chapter 4. Mad Max, the Road Warrior. What happens in Chapter 5? Well, if you've seen the movie, you probably know. Until then, tune in and we shall find out. Peace, hair grease.